Vroom, vroom. Right, this is a video bringing everybody up to date. It might be a bit bitsy because unfortunately Tanya's life is getting more and more difficult, and I can't really say, oh no, what you've got to do is because she's, you know, she's got all sorts of problems which you obviously would have if you come from Ukraine at the moment. But anyway, so Susie stepped in the breach and we're going to do a little bit of bringing everybody up to date. So if it's a little bit iffy, tell us, but we don't care anyway. So anyway, so this was the big end that went on the, what trial was it, Susie?
Lakeland trial.
The Lakeland trial. Now, the minute this big end went, I was driving along on the main road and Susie heard it and I heard it and we stopped immediately. So that's how much damage was done. But then we had to limp back to the hotel at walking speed. So we've had a little bit of a stuff, but nowhere did it get through. It threw all the white metal out, obviously, but it never got through to the steel. It was only on the bronze, but as you can see, it was pretty bad.
And that was when we were out in the Salmson, the trials car.
That's it. That was it. So anyway, we limped back to the hotel, we came back, put it in, left it in the van for weeks. So then we started on the Mini, which you've all seen the Mini one, and we didn't have any wiring. We'd ordered a wiring loom and there was a week which we couldn't really do anything on the Mini. So I said to John, why don't we whip the engine out of the Salmson and have a look at the engine? Thinking, well, I'm going to have the crankshaft round and probably have new white metal and blah, 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 and that would all take a bit of time, so let's get it on it now. So anyway, so we took the engine out and we took it all to pieces, and obviously that was the big end, what I've just shown you. And so we looked at the crank and the crank was good. We didn't, you know, we polished the crank up and it was good. So I said to John, let's go round and have a look at the box of conrods that we got from the Don Hill spares. Anyway, so this is the box of conrods. So anyway, I pulled the conrod out, like that, and I said to John, well, that looks good, John. I mean, the white metal's all right. You know, why don't we try it on? And he looked at me like I was mad, because how could it be the right size? But anyway, we put it on and it was absolutely perfect. We put the plastic gauge on and it had tooth-out clearance and it was in really good condition. So we just put the engine back together again with the conrod from Don Hill stuff. So that's what it's got now. So this weekend we're going off on the Derbyshire trial. And so we'll see just how good it is, you know, fingers crossed a little bit. Prior to this though, we have been to Bicester. We started the year by going to Bicester. It was absolutely freezing, but anyway, we went to Bicester. And during that run, the car broke down and the rotor arm jumped off. So why that happened, I don't know. So that is what I've got to have a look at between now and the weekend.
Right, it's 8 o'clock in the morning and we're going to Bicester. This is our first outing of 2024. And here we are, bloody freezing.
First time it's broken down.
That's not strictly true, that, Ivan.
It's not strictly true. For some reason, this keeps jumping off. That's the position. And
What is it? It's the rotor arm?
what it is, that thing in the middle there, that little spring thing, which is not working, should hold it down. But we're only about 200 or 300 yards from home, so. Right, that's the engine resting in the frame. Obviously we've got to bolt it in and put all the ancillaries on. But it's a good step. The valve clearances are done, which are done with like sort of little shims that go on top of the valve. They're like a little top hat. Timothy has them made, so they're made of silver steel, so you get the clearances all right. And then what we do, we stand them on a piece of wire, heat them up red hot at the top, trying not to let the heat sink down the tube, because they tend to break then. So get it red, get it cherry red on the top and drop it in oil, and they're as hard as glass. So that's all been done. And now we've got it, just put it in. So I reckon by the end of the day, or certainly tomorrow, we'll be attempting to start it. So I'll make sure that Tanya's here when we do, and we'll have a film of starting it up for the first time. We'll have the exhaust systems, it's all there, but it's all a bit umpty-bumpty, so I think we'll have to, make a few bits on that to get it up under the car a bit, but might be good enough just to get it going, because there's a few other things we've got to do. So that's it at the moment.
They've got a mechanic doing it. So I said that I really want to go and see it. So I asked the Castrol man, could I go and see it? And that one was going to have it. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Ready?
So here I am, welding up the exhaust for the Bugatti. We're going to have it over the axle, which I'm a great believer in. We don't want it hanging on the floor. So that bit comes along from the back of the car, over the axle, out the side, and then back and out the back of the car. Bought from Demon Tweaks, the bends. Came the next day. We rung them up in the morning, and by the next 11 o'clock we had the bends ready to start work. And I think they're absolutely beautiful, the bends. I'm sure that, there's got to be probably somebody cheaper, but it's so convenient and so quick. And, that's the way we're going to do it. But we've been thinking about the oil, and I talked to Timothy about it, and of course he is an agent for classic Castrol. And he puts it in all the Bugattis and that. And he says, well, again, he said, we've been using it for years, we've never had any trouble. And the other thing was, of course, that when I raced in the 70s, Castrol were very good to me. They used to give me prize money if I won, and I had to win, because if I didn't win, I wouldn't have the money and I couldn't afford to do it. So they were really good, the check used to come quick, because we always needed the money. So anyway, so I thought, let's stick with Castrol. So we're going to put straight 30 in the engine initially to get it running and get the rings running, etc., etc. And then we'll have a decision whether we put 2050 in it. We're going to put 140 in the gearbox and 140 in the back axle. So old John's about to pour the oil in, so I thought it'd be a good opportunity for you to see the overdrive in position with the torque arm, all original and no chopping about done at all. So Tanya will now go and show you that. So what's that?
That's 2050.
Not
classic.
Is it?
Yeah.
You got some of it.
Yeah.
Pour it in, John.
That's obviously for the overdrive.
No. That's what they recommend. 140 is the good one. They said lash it in, didn't they, John?
Yeah, fill it right up, apparently.
Yes. Right, there was probably here. That nut's loose, not there's a gap there. They've obviously done that to lower the car, so we're tightening that up to see what it looks like. If it's no good. Right, that's all very good.
Before.
Yeah, I think, but we didn't have that bit before, did we?
Let's try.
Let me just get that apart, because it might go on. It ain't going to move, is it?
it on, it's harder. There. Not far off.
Interesting to see if the float comes up, John, won't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it should do, shouldn't it? I'm just wondering about the tap being all off. It's obviously in the right place at the moment.
Oh, that can looks bloody marvellous, doesn't it?
Put these away for 50 years and they'll have a value, won't they?
Yeah. We're about to put them in an auction. Well, they'll have that on a spaceship, won't they?
Yeah.
There'll be like the personal room of one of the crew. Said, oh look, that's a Castrol can.
Planet Earth.
They used to have those years ago, and they used to put oil in the cars. What sort of cars was they in? Oh, they weren't electric, they was proper cars. It spreads itself along anyway, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, of course it does.
It does mean that all that's got really good oil in, doesn't it? That's it. No, it's not.
Oh yeah, of course the filler there, yeah. Boom. Forgotten about that.
Oh, and that fills the sump up.
Do you think that'd take all the 3 gallons?
Yes, definitely. Luckily, Timothy had a half-finished petrol tank. So that was a real bit of luck, because the tank on the old Bugatti is definitely a bit desperate. It had a new bottom put in it, and the filler cap was over the side of the exhaust. And I thought, well, I know it's all right, but it'd be better if it wasn't. So now we've decided to make a new tank.
So this is the new tank here?
So this is the new tank here, which is half finished, but John's got to make the bits here that have a sort of packing in them against the chassis, and we're gonna put a fuel gauge on the car. So we've made this up so that will get soldered on there, and the fuel gauge will go in there, and then this is the bit where the petrol comes out of the tank, which will go there with obviously a pipe down into the tank with probably a filter on it, because there's no end in here. There's nothing.
Well, let's
in
look.
It.
Okay.
So obviously that will get soldered on when we put obviously that in, that on, and then the next thing is the drain plug. So that will get riveted on. It won't just get soldered, that'll get riveted, because you can bet your life the first time you try and turn that with a spanner, the whole thing will come off. So that's a proper job with the rivets. It didn't have that on the old tank, but it's going to have it now. So we've done that, that's done, and then this is going to go on there, and then that will get riveted on. We can't get to the rivets, so that will have modern pop rivets that are blind. In other words, once you squeeze them on, they don't leak, but they get soldered in anyway. So that'll get soldered on, and then we'll have a tube going in there with the cap on it for putting the petrol in. So although that's a load of work, but luckily it ain't all work, because Timothy obviously had this one half.
And that's what John's doing here.
And that's what John's doing there. So what he's doing is fitting that, and he's using what they call a shrinker and a stretcher. And as you can see, it works like a charm. It's a magic machine, this. I mean, you can buy great big ones that are powered, you know, electrically. But even though this, you know, you think, well, what can you do with that? It's amazing what you can do with it. I mean, this is a simple job. We had a bodywork man work for us for years. Young Jamie, unfortunately he's dead now, but it was a bit of a sad story. But I've seen Jamie, you know, have a panel that's all sort of stretched and everything, and he'd put it in right up to there, and shrink it and stretch it and get it back to shape. So although it, you know, you look at it and you think, well, I don't see how that can do anything, but it blooming does. It's a good machine.
So what we're doing, we're shrinking that edge,
So
which
that's,
then creates that curve.
Great. Okay, I see.
right, we've already had the engine running, but we've lost the footage, so we're going to do it again. But we're going to start the engine, so you've got to remember it's already had the oil pressure up because it's actually been run. But it'd be very interesting to get Susie to put the thing on the gauge, and you can see how long it takes for the pressure to come up after the engine's been started, which is what I was going on about the rockers. But anyway, let's see. Let's see. Right, so ignition's on. That's it, John. You get on the throttle. I'll get on the starter. Shall I pull a choke? Give it a rev. Exactly gush oil, because the oil's coming out the back of the cam follower. If that was a modern car with a hole in the cam, that would be oil would be up here. So, you know, the fact they wear, but you know, they are 1927 and they're still going, so, you know, and they're all wet, every one.
Okay, ready, go.
Look, as you can see in here, it's all oily. All the way along, everywhere's oily. But we all know that the oil coming out the back of the camshaft is better. But, you know, that's original. I mean, if we was going to make a whole new one, that's what we'd do. We'd have it coming out the back of the cam. But then what happens then is, so you do that, you think, oh, that's a good mod. But the next thing you know, the oil drains down a tube there, a tube there, a tube there. There's 4 little tubes that's, you know, like that big. But obviously you've got this bit in the middle here. But then the next thing you know is the cam box fills up with oil instead of running back down quick enough. So that's another thing that you've got to take into account. So leaving it all original is probably the best thing to do, really.
And so, Ivan, how do I check the oil on this?
Right, come round here, Ducky. That is, there's a float at the bottom of that, and it floats like that.
Oh, I see.
And then about halfway up, that, you know, if you were driving down the road down, the oil was warm, it would come up nicely. But about halfway is where it needs to be. So that little thing there comes up about halfway.
Oh.
We've gone round the front brakes and the linings are all right and everything seems to be all right, but the actual bearings were very growly, so we're going to put new bearings in it. But we had to make new brake cables. Because when this car was sold, it was sold saying that the front brake cables had been removed. So we've made new brake cables using the original ends and staking them and soldering them as they did originally. And that runs down, obviously, back, right through there, and then it comes down to the chain. See the chain over there? That chain.
Chain on both sides.
Yeah, but that equalises it front to back.
I'm not sure I can get the chain on the GoPro.
I think you will. And then that thing at the bottom of the pedal, that equalises it side to side.
Oh, okay, okay.
So it's equalised side to side on that thing there. And
Can
then,
I just get in and get it closer?
Yeah, hang on. You've got the advantage of a door. A bit more light.
Oh, that's better.
So when you put your foot on the brake, see the chain equalises it front to back.
Okay,
And
yeah.
then that thing there equalises it side to side.
Okay.
It's not moving at the moment because obviously there ain't no brake drums on the car. But that's what that does. And it works like a charm. on a Grand Prix car, all I did was I altered the levers at the back. I made the levers smaller because when you really were going, and I'm talking really going, 100 odd miles an hour, you slammed on the brakes, the back wheels would lock up. So we shortened the leverage, but we kept the chain and everything exactly as original. What a marvellous thing to be able to adjust on a bloody old car like this, but it worked like a charm. But this won't need that. The rear drums were desperate. They'd obviously, you know, they'd been machined so many times there was hardly anything left, and what it'd done, it had broken the aluminium cooling fins on it. It's over here somewhere. I think the fact the drum had obviously expanded and got hot or something, but anyway, they were broken, so it wasn't very good. But luckily I had some drums that were front ones, and they were quite easy to modify to go on the back. So we've modified them to go on the back and take the place of the ones that are on there. And these have got a lot of meat left compared to the ones that was on there. There's, you know, they're twice as thick on the actual steel. So they'll be good then. And the shoes are all right. But again, this wheel had oil all over everything. So what we do there is we put a sealed for life bearing on here, and that stops the oil coming through. But most likely the oil's come through because people overfill the back axles. But all this is good, that'll all go together good. Although it wasn't very tight when we took it to pieces, you really have to tighten them up. I mean, you know, we have a spanner 6 foot long and really tighten them up, so they've got to go on there really tight. And then those things there adjust the plane that way. So when you put the hubs on, you have to undo them and slacken them right off, because you don't really know when this is going to finish up. So you do that first, and then you bring them up just to rest against it to stop it going like that. And looking at it, I mean, I don't know if they've been undone yet, but if you look at that one, it's sticking out much further than that one. So, you know, previously that was obviously adjusted wrong. But whether old John's backed them off, I don't think he has. No, they haven't been touched. So that was a problem. But anyway, we fixed that. That's no problem. So this is the axle flange that John has machined. And the only thing we couldn't do is put that square hole in it. I mean, I'll tell you, we could have put a square hole in it, but it wouldn't fit properly. And it has to fit properly, because the minute that gets a bit loose, then obviously it tends to undo the nut and it's not right. But what we're going to do, you see, obviously down this end, on the overdrive, is to take a modern prop shaft. So we're going to have a modern prop shaft. So very often people modify a bit at the back, but this is made completely new, and we take it to a firm that makes Formula One bits, funnily enough, and they wire and road that hole. And they've done a lot for us, and they know exactly the size. I mean, we tell them the size, but even when you tell someone the size, they can still get it wrong. And they go on that square that's 1927 and still lovely. It slips on there. Absolutely beautiful, look at that. No slack in it whatsoever. But then we put a modern oil seal in there, because there's a modern oil seal you can buy that's dead the right size. So John has machined this the right size, and it will go in there, and then there's a brass cover keeps it all in there. So that's a lovely job because it never leaks. And then having a modern prop shaft, you know, is a lot better. Now the original prop shaft worked like a charm, but they're 100 years old. The ball is sloppy, the thing inside the bearings, inside the prop shaft sloppy, and the fabric coupling is just not up to it. The modern ones are riveted together. I think originally they were sort of vulcanised or something, and they work beautifully. But it is a problem, and nothing worse than having the old prop shaft vibrating. So a nice new modern Hardy Spicer prop shaft, perfect. This is the old straps that hold the petrol tank on. Now that petrol tank is not going to be the same size exactly as the one that came off. So we decided to make new straps. So what we've done, we've taken the ends off, and they're the ends, and we cleaned them up, and we've cut a nice new bit of strip, and we've made this up. So that goes in there like that. That is a steel rivet, goes in there, and we've made a couple of punches, so that goes on there like that to hold that, and then we heat it up red hot, and we got another punch, and you punch it down, and that'll radius it off. So that's how we're going to do that. The other thing, people are going on about the cam follower and how I've gone through the hardening and everything, and you could send them off and have them re-hardened. Well, I realise all that, but I tell you what, I don't think I'd send a 100-year-old thing off to be re-hardened. So I'll show you just how much you can take off. Right, that's a desperately worn one, as you can see. I mean, that one's worn, but that's really bad. I mean, let's try and find a really good one, and you can see just how much is on there by comparison. There's got to be a good one in here. Come on, that's a pretty good one. As you can see, look, it's got quite a nice radius. It's got a bit of wear, which is like the ones we had. They weren't worn any more than that, and all I've done is taken that off. But now there's a desperate one. As you can see, look, it's nearly flat. So there's got to be, I would say, if you put those together, there's got to be at least 0.5 millimetre off of that. So that's what, 20 thou. So that's had 20 thou worn off it. So that is how deep the case hardening is, in theory, but in my experience it's deeper. So now let's see how hard that is, to see whether just cleaning that one up would go through the case hardening. So we put that in the vise. And we get the diamond file. And we'll file that. Now look, that is feeling lovely. That doesn't feel like it's gone through the hardening to me. And in a desperate situation, you could probably file that up, but we don't have to because we've got a better one than that. Right, so now I'll get a proper file. But suddenly, having looked on the internet, I can see that you can buy files that tell you how hard the metal is. In other words, if this file files it, it's so hard, and if this one files it, it's harder. Or anyway, I think I might get a set of those files. I didn't even know about that until I saw it on the internet. Right, look, won't touch it. It's like trying to file glass. So I don't think taking a little bit off just to clean them up and make them look pretty is gone through the case hardening. And in my experience, that is what happens, because I ain't done this once, I've done it a few times over the years. I mean, ideally, you have all new cam followers and you have a new camshaft, lovely. And that's, if you're going to do hundreds of miles and really, you know, but I mean, obviously, I have seen camshafts very badly pitted, because standing around, bit of condensation in there, stands around for 50 years. I mean, we got camshafts where the rust holes are sort of really deep, so, you know, I mean, this wasn't that bad, really. I mean, I only cleaned all that up and make it look pretty, and I knew it would sound nicer. And starting it up, it does sound nicer. Right, so you've probably all seen the short video with Tom driving this, so I think there's an explanation needed there. What happened was, I got invited by Goodwood to do the members meeting. Well, I ain't mad about Goodwood, to be honest with you, but anyway, it's very nice of them to invite me. And I haven't actually renewed my licence yet. So I mentioned all this to young Tom, and he said, well, I wouldn't mind doing Goodwood. So I said, well, you're very welcome. And I've been you know, you see the videos of us in Italy, well that's Tom who we stay with, and he can drive a 4.5 litre Bentley better than I can, that's for sure. So I thought, well, he ain't going to have any trouble driving a Hall & Scott, because compared to a Bentley, it's a doddle. So anyway, that is the explanation. So he arrived, because he is a busy boy, he's got a serious business. So he arrived on the Tuesday last week, or whenever it was, and I said, why don't you have a drive round the block? So I went round the block with him once. Well, of course, no windscreen on my side, I was absolutely frozen. But luckily, it wasn't raining. So anyway, so then I said, well, why don't you go round the block on your own? It's quite a long way, it's 2 miles or something. So he went out and he went round the block 3 times. So obviously he said, oh, it's wonderful, you know, the gearbox is, well, you saw by the smiles on his face, he absolutely loved it. So that's that. So now I'm saying, but that's all very well, but if you're going to race it at Goodwood, you need to have a bit of track time. Well, it's very difficult to get track time for a car like this, because it's open wheel, hasn't got a roll cage, hasn't got seat belts, you know, it's not easy. But anyway, luckily, Timothy has rented.
Has he rented the track at Anglesey?
He's rented a track at Anglesey. Good old Susie, that's what, well, when you're old you forget. Anyway, so he's rented a track at Anglesey for one of his very good customers to try out his Bugatti. So Timothy has said to the customer, would you mind if my dad came along with the old Hall & Scott? And he doesn't mind, and we ain't going to push in, we're not going to interfere with his testing, obviously. So now we've got the chance to go to Anglesey. So we are going to go to Anglesey with the Hall & Scott, and Tom will have a chance to drive the thing on a track, which is what you've got to do really. And then obviously he'll be much better prepared to go to Goodwood. So that is the story about Tom driving the Hall & Scott. Right. Must retire it. And you must switch it on.
Well, the fuel?
No, that.
On.
The fuel is on. Right, here we go. It's going to go now.
Are we all still smiling?
I don't know if he is. I am.
Did you spin it?
No, didn't even. I wasn't trying hard enough.
What it is, he's still driving a Bentley, so he's doing all that clever stuff with the clutch and everything, and you don't have to do it.
It was the way, what you told me, just drive it like a car.
Drive it until you change
And then it got easier.
Yeah. It's so, I mean, it's so light. It's like driving a Mini or something.
Yeah. And then, you see, if you do this, that lets the air out.
Releases it out of where? Out of here then, literally out of the valve itself.
There
doesn't it?
somewhere, yeah. Yeah. So now that is the one fitted to the aeroplane that the engine goes in. I bought the car, I bought the engine, and a year later I went back. The Frenchman said, oh, I found a pump.
Yeah.
I went back and it was the same bloke that sold me the engine. And he asked the Frenchman 200 quid for it. And the Frenchman said, you've got to buy it for your Hall & Scott in Turkey. I went over there and I said, oh, hello, mate, blah, blah, blah. How much is it then? He went, oh, 100 quid to you. The old Frenchman, he obviously thought, oh, typical, you know.
Yeah. Amazing, what a thing.
But that gearbox is good, but the clutch is definitely weak. I might need a bit but you've got to take, you've only got to breathe on it and it slips.
Yeah. Well, even with it all the way off,
Yeah.
in fourth, when
Yeah,
I mean,
you can make it slip.
yeah,
Now what you've got to do is feed it in and feed it in.
yeah.
We'll try and get a bit more clutch for you, but you know, I mean,
Need a step on it.
that's it. That's what I would do. I heard some woman say, how's that old bastard going to get in there? And I made a special point of sort of jumping on that and leaping in.
Right.
Give that a few pumps.
Okay, that was down to. Oh, actually, still got it in there. But that was running about.
No, it doesn't go right back to normal.
Okay.
That'll do.
That's on there, is it?
Switch it on. Press the start. When it starts, advance it. Was the inspiration for building this car. That was the picture, the Peugeot which won at Indianapolis. So I then went on the internet and I found as many pictures as I could because I wanted to get this car, you know, based on something. I mean, I know it's only an old special, but you might as well base it on something. So this was the book. So if you're really keen on that, we could do a whole video about how we bought the engine at Bewley and blah, 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 and how this car actually exists. So that's up to you, folks. If you really want to know about it, how we made the body, how we made the exhaust, how we had to have the bigger axle made, blah, blah, blah. Right. So now we're walking away, and you'll follow it, Benny. People ask me about this motorbike. It's got a V-twin Royal Enfield engine. It looks like a Jack, but it ain't. It's got a big end on, and we've got some bits with it, so we could fix it. But it's got no brakes at all. It was obviously built up a long time ago, because these wheels look like they came off of a cart. So we don't know anything about it, but we are convinced it's a wall of death bike, because with no brakes whatsoever, and it don't look like a speedway bike, so I'm convinced that's probably what it was used for. But if anybody knows more about it, we'd love to know about it. And if we do the big end and one thing and another and get it going, that would be a good video driving this round the field. Right. The man who promised us the spacers, one of our followers, Mark, he took them to Silverstone at the Pomeroy, gave them to somebody who brought them to the farm. They're a bit fat, and I think there's a possibility they might be a little bit too fat. But you can always take metal off. It's much more difficult to put it on. So we've now got the spacers to go with the wheels. And not only, but also we've got the long studs. So I think soon we'll have no more excuses. We'll have to get on and get on the car. But you know, unfortunately we've been doing a bit on the old Bugatti, and if you stop work you lose your momentum, you know, you've got to keep going, and we want to get that out of the way. And we've had it running, we're getting close now, but unfortunately old John's gone on holiday, which is not really unfortunate because I think he deserves a holiday. So it's going to be a little bit of a hold up, and this will give me and Susie time to wander around and do this video. As I say, because Tanya's not actually here, she's got problems, I don't know what she's up to be honest. So there we are. Now don't forget to subscribe. because we're over 20,000 now. I can't believe it. I keep thinking of a film with 20,000 people in. But anyway, subscribe.